Well, there's really nothing that I love more than cooking in the woods. I'm sitting here about to embark on a jungle curry on behalf of the Wild Beer Company, doing some food matching. So cheers to you on this autumn day. I think all good things start with a sip of excellent beer. And what I'm cooking today is namely a jungle curry. What jungle curry implies it's something, it's made at speed in situation. It's not refined. The spices aren't ground down to a paste. They're fried in the oil and they present themselves whole in the curry. So it's kind of more bitty, it's rougher, it's faster, and it's very simple. There's not a lot of kind of grinding of spices. It's as if you are there, crouched in the jungle, in this case a lovely bit of English oak woodland, and it's all just kind of done rather quickly, and so here we go. It's very important that your spices are toasted, or tempered, as they say. So I've got my balti, which my mum brought me back from Udaipur, and I've got some oil, and we really want this to get quite hot, so a good lick of oil in there. And then the spices, so you want that to be almost smoking. A few wisps of smoke even doesn't matter. And then I'm going to start putting in the spices. So there goes a bit of cinnamon. I've got some nigella seeds. I've got some cumin. Some fennel seeds. Some black peppercorns. Okay. That's all going, and then I have curry leaves. Now you can use dried curry leaves, which are very easy to find in the supermarket, but there's nothing quite like the fresh ones. And I'm putting these in at the end because these are the things that are going to kind of cook quickest. Now, already, cardamom. Hold on, let me take that off the heat a little bit. I've got some cardamom here. I've lumped everything into the woods. I've even got my 2-stone pestle and mortar. And I want some cardamom in there too. The smell coming off is completely different to if your spices were just straight from the jar. There's onion in this, the backbone of so many things, but we all tend to really rush the cooking of onions. And it's a great shame. We're going back in nature. Again, I wanted to cook in the woods precisely because it's Wild Beer Company. No point in being in the kitchen. 11 o'clock beer is highly advisable. Right. Okay, so that can go back on. And then in goes the onion. I'm actually now going to add a bit of ghee, or Indian clarified butter. Sometimes it's even slightly fermented, which I really like. Now, although the curry leaves have gone black, that's just because they've cooked, not because they're burnt. And that's sizzling away, perfect. And it makes it so rich, ghee in a curry. If you don't have ghee, you can use butter. Right, what's next? Okay. Garlic's really important. If you've got garlic with great big green shoots growing through it, it's not very nice, it's gone. You want good, hard, pert, firm garlic. And then about a knob of ginger, thumb's worth or thereabouts. Chop this up nice and small. Obviously you could make this with lamb, you could make this with chicken, you could make it with rabbit. I'm using venison today. On previous trips in India where we've cooked such things, last time I had kind of cooking in the jungle, we had 10 unfortunate chickens in a crate that day by day slowly disappeared to the point of none. They were very delicious, and they cleaned the chicken guts and the heart and the kidneys and liver, and they rolled them up with spices in a banana leaf and then poked it down inside a tube of bamboo and blocked the ends up with mud. And when there was a great big crack and the bamboo split, the banana leaf would be pulled out and opened, and drinking beer by the edge of the river, you'd eat these steamed chicken, spicy steamed chicken guts and innards, and it was one of the most delicious things in the world. Again, great joy cooking outside. I want to get this really nice and small because it's not that nice having a bunch of ginger in there. And the smell is absolutely amazing. You want these onions to be nothing but soft, and you want them to be beginning to actually colour and brown. Some might say I should have done the ginger and garlic first, but come on, it's going to be delicious. Okay, ginger and garlic in. And I'm going to give that a few minutes, and then I'm going to put in the powdered spices. Cheers. With the curry, I'm drinking the Wild IPA. This is it's absolutely delicious. It's made with 3 yeasts, namely Talus, which is the one that has been thought would go very well with spices. It's got a lovely, I wouldn't say sourness, but sharpness. It's got real body, and it's very, very interesting. And for me, one of the reasons that I really, really like this is it's not bitter, and it's incredibly well-rounded and tasty. It's properly tasty, and I think it'll go very well with the curry. Right, back to the curry. Okay, so now I'm going to add a small bit of turmeric, probably about a teaspoon and no more. And I'm going to add some chili powder. I want a little bit of attitude. I don't want it to be violent exactly. And I'm going to add some tomato puree. Oh, nothing I love more than actually that first new tomato puree when you poke the lid in. What you want to do is really scald the tomato puree to get rid of that slightly processed taste that comes with it, and also get it to slightly catch, and it develops a far more interesting flavour. Okay, now one thing I forgot to do was to put any stalks in of the coriander. We always pick the leaves off and then we throw the stalks away. Coriander, interestingly enough, goes so well with so many types of lager and beer. So we always use the leaves and throw the stalks away. Pointless. And now, some coconut water. Haha, buried under the leaves. Not coconut cream, but coconut water. Seasoning I'm going to add at the end. Okay, so I'll just let that do its thing for a bit. That is absolutely delicious. There's a wonderful taste of the toasted spices. It's got a lovely heat to it, a kind of grrr on the back of the throat, which will again go so well with this Wild IPA. I think Wild Beer Company has a deer for a logo, and I think it's why I've chosen the deer today. And also to make that point that we always talk about venison, and you go to the butcher and you will have tried a red deer and you go, I really like that, and then you go back and you try a fallow deer and go, well, it's not the same as what I bought before. We've got a Chinese water deer in the UK, we've got the muntjac, we've got the roe deer, the sika deer, the fallow deer, and the red deer, and they're all very different tasting. And I feel indignant that they're all lumped into the same term, venison. And so too with the delicious beers from the Wild Beer Co, that while they've all got a deer on the front, they're all totally different and unique. They're a company that really understand what they do. They're experts. They're proper crafters. They really understand ingredients, and as a result, lots of very different and very unique and very delicious things come out of their brewery. Venison is a meat that we ignore. There's an enormous amount of deer running around the UK. When you're walking in the woods, although you can't see them, there's probably a deer looking at you. The meat is extremely delicious. It's incredibly healthy. It's very limited on fat content, which is why you've got to be very, very careful cooking it. Which is why we're cooking a very quick curry here. You don't want that lean meat to overcook. The venison I'm using today is fallow deer. I'm in the middle of Berkshire. There is a lot of fallow deer in Berkshire, quite a problem for the farmers. So it seems fitting to use fallow deer here rather than, red deer or... This is strip loin. It's the bit that goes down the back here, on each side of the spine. It's very, very delicious meat. It's incredibly tender. I've trimmed off the sinew, and now I'm going to slice it up into quite thin pieces. I want the meat to cook very quickly. As you can see, there's very little fat. So this must be cooked quickly so it has that lovely, luxurious tenderness. I once ate a venison curry in Sri Lanka in a lean-to on the side of the road. And the guy did a sort of kind of charades, and I guessed that by him going like this, the cook, that he meant deer. Halfway through eating the deer, the police turned up and arrested him. And I had to pay the bill for my curry to the police. It turned out that he was a notorious poacher across Sri Lanka, and I'd just eaten something called a pygmy rat deer or something like that, which is actually really endangered. Anyway, chef was arrested, and I was sitting there eating my curry, having paid the police, looking probably quite perplexed by the whole thing. The wonderful thing about cooking over fire is it's really about the wood smoke. Wood smoke is an ingredient. It's not just a heat source. If you're cooking over a gas cooker, then it's just about the heat. If you're cooking over wood, it's about the taste of the wood as well, which adds so much to the dish. So rather than use too much oil, just pour a bit of oil onto the venison and massage that in. Right, okay. That pan is incredibly hot. Spread it out a bit. That's really hot and catching straight away. Good sign. A little bit more meat. Okay, now the temptation is always to fiddle. I'm going to leave it a little bit, just to get a bit of colour. There's some nice brownness on here. And that's going to now go into my waiting curry. I love my Balti pan in the same way that I love my mum. Whenever she goes away on holiday, she goes and finds some kind of, sometimes rather obscure or not, kind of cooking implement to bring me back. And this pan, God knows how many curries have been made in it. Many, many, many. Now, as you've noticed, we've added no salt. We're all a bit kind of gung-ho with the salt, and some things need more salt than other things in order to bring out the true taste. But I want to get all of this together, and then the salt will be added at the end. I think if I said to you curry, you'd immediately answer rice. Well, no. What we're doing today is something called a bunny chow that apparently originates from Durban. It's very popular across the whole of South Africa. And instead of rice, I'm going to get a loaf of bread, cut the middle out, toast the middle, and the bits that come out of the middle, and have it kind of by the side. And then the curry goes into the loaf of bread. So this is a kind of meeting of nations. This is, the large Indian population that live in Africa meeting the European population of Africa. And so it's curry in a loaf, bunny chow. It's sold in quarters and halves or a whole one. We're going to do a whole one and then kind of pull it to bits. And so, but the bread is cold, and I just want to heat it up a bit. So for a few minutes before the curry goes back on, I'm just going to get our bread a little bit kind of toasty and smoky. Well, the bread has been toasting gently on the side of the fire. The curry's now going to go back on. I just want to bring it up to the vaguest simmer. If there's a little bit of rareness in there, then even better. I want that to come up to heat. And now I'm just going to add a little bit of lime juice. Not too much. You don't want this to be sharp, but you just want it to, like vinegar in a good stew. It'll just transform it, kind of give it a little edge. Now, this is the time where I'm going to consult the salt. You can always put it in, but you can't take it out. So put a bit of salt in, taste it, and then put some more in. So that's bubbling away nicely. Just going to have a little taste. I'm going to add a little bit more. I think you've got to remember that, you know, when people say put a teaspoon of salt in, it seems like a lot, but then count how many people there are around the table. And actually the salt content isn't as much as, doesn't suddenly seem as frightening. And you really need to bring the flavour out in this. So that's probably about a teaspoon and a half of flaked sea salt, not table salt. Don't like table salt. Okay, now, while that's kind of quietly bubbling away, I'm going to take the loaf. I'm going to cut round the inside to make room for that curry. We're making the bunny chow, the South African curry inside a loaf of bread. I'm going to take this out. I'll toast this by the fire, I won't waste it. Okay, now this is critical here. If you overcook the strip loin, it'll be really tasty, but the meat's kind of done for. It doesn't have to be pink if you don't like your meat pink, but it's got to be just, you know, when it's, you know, cooked through, because anything more than that, and all it'll do is increasingly toughen up. So this is a very quick curry to cook, and precisely why I chose this jungle curry for the woods. You can use all the same ingredients with lamb, like lamb neck fillet, but then just cook it for a bit longer until the lamb becomes tender. So here we are, a venison curry made with fallow deer, going into a bunny chow, and I've drunk the Beyond Moda 7. Lira Pip is one of my favourite. We tried Pogo Squared, the tropical fruits, which I thought would go very well with the curry, but I actually have to say it's the India Pale Ale that's going to be my huckleberry for eating with this venison bunny chow. Just one thing I'd like to say that I've noticed about the Wild Beer Company kind of through the spectrum of what they produce, and it's notably an interest in a pursuit of slight sourness in things. Sourness is very, very important, and I think it actually amplifies savoury. I mean, if you walked up to, it drives my mum and my girlfriend mad, but if they've cooked a stew, when they've gone off to do something else, I will sneak in a little bit of cider vinegar or a little bit of red wine vinegar, because what it does, it totally transforms things. And this is what I think one of the many things that the Wild Beer Company do incredibly well is an understanding of acidity and how it brings out the full flavour. Not to say that their beers are sour, some of them are, but also in their kind of gentler table beers, there is still an understanding of acidity there and how incredibly important it is. And it's one of the many reasons, as I say, why I really like the Wild Beer Company. Now, all cooks at home or in restaurants should eat their way through everything they do. Otherwise, how do you know what you're giving to other people if you haven't tried it? It might look pretty, but does it taste wonderful? That venison meat is super tender. There's toasted spices, there's a slight sharpness from the lemon juice. It's really rich because of the ghee in it, and that's so wonderful. And it reminds me of mad travels into the Himalayas, and I'm going to go and dish it up on a log.